Oops. Hey guys.
Hey, how's it going?
Very good. How are you?
Doing good.
I see you got your discussion post in already, Marcus.
Yep. It's the first time I was the first one to do something on an assignment.
Very impressive. Do you and your brother work together? Are you guys brothers, or am I just assuming that?
No, we're brothers.
Do you work together?
Yeah, we collaborate on a lot of writing stuff.
That's great. Maybe you'll be the next Cohen brothers pair. The Crespo brothers.
Yeah, there's also the Russo brothers, the Grimm brothers.
Yeah. Yeah.
Are
That's
there
cool.
any sister writers?
Are you guys compatible, or do you argue a lot?
No, we're compatible. We do argue, but that's just us being brothers. But for the most part, we actually do find a lot of common ground on some things.
Yeah. That's great. I could just see you guys in a writer's room or a boardrooms at some point in the future, and Ryan says something you don't like, and the two of you start rolling around on the floor wrestling to see who wins and who gets to be the right one.
Who knows?
That's great. My brother's 10 years younger than me, so there's a little bit of a gap there.
It's a 3-year difference for us.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so it's not that far.
Well, that's interesting. Which one of you is older?
Ryan's the older one.
And is what year are you guys in, respectively?
He's coming up on his final year. Actually, next semester is going to be his last semester at school.
Ah.
For me, because of my minor, I'm not going to be able to graduate until next spring
Yeah, what a surprise.
because of one class.
Yeah, yep. That's we used to call UCF you can't finish back in the old days.
Yeah,
For
I used
that
to think
very
it was
reason.
because a lot of people said it was a party school, but it's for other reasons.
Not really. It never really has been. I mean, I went for a brief period in 88, 87, 88, and then I went back in 2014 to finish my to finish my degree. But even back then it was a pocket protector school, and it was mostly guys. It was a dude ranch. Nobody partied. You had to go other places to party. So not much has changed. That's okay. You're here to learn. Oh, this is a small group. Juliana, how you doing?
Hi, I'm still driving home.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
That's a problem. You're the presenter.
Yeah, I'm like 5 minutes away.
Oh man. All right.
Yeah, sorry.
I'll kibitz. I will buy you some time.
Okay, thank you so much.
All right. Does anybody else want to present? Juliana has a portion of her script she wants to talk about today, and I have her recent 2 documents, first image and what else do I have? Inciting incident. So anybody else have something they want to look at this afternoon?
I've already written some parts of my script that I wouldn't mind some guys checking out.
Okay, good. So that's 2 folks. Great. And 2 new folks, which is even better. I love that. All right, let me just get this out of the way. Then I will do my little dance on the catwalk here with my little slideshow here, just as a conversation starter. So today is workshop 11. Well, is that true? 11, I think. We'll talk about your Act 2 products that you have to share. And I just want to remind you of a couple of things we talked about on Tuesday. So some of our writers, the authors of our textbook, are referring to Act 2 as the place where the story begins. And it offers depth of insight or meaning. It guides our hero along the way. It's invigorating. The hero's motivation may be deepened or lessened, for that matter. It offers ongoing perils, including the possibility of losing one's way. It also may include a refusal of the first call, and it often involves misdirection or deception, entanglements, and or confrontations. And through these struggles, the hero is infused with greater vision and strengthened spiritually, and is inspired to live a life of authenticity. When story begins, Act 2 contains the rising action or a series of challenges and obstacles that prevent the protagonist from easily achieving their goal. It also leads to some sort of possible final mini climax, and ultimately to the final conflict pitting the protagonist against the antagonist, one towards another. And I asked you, or I showed you rather, two opposing arguments on Tuesday, and I'm curious who agrees with Aristotle. Do you agree that character is subsidiary to action? Do you agree that without action there can be no story, whereas without characters there can still be story? Do you agree that story may be possible? Oh, I just asked you that. The modern drama interests us by the situations the characters are in and not necessarily their feelings, wounds, or inner conflicts. Or do you agree with Lahush Egri, who maintains that character creates plot, not vice versa, that conflicts grow out of characters and not vice versa, that every character represents a world of his or her own, and that the character's actions stem from their traits and motives, and that the more you know about a character, the more interested in their story you become. So today is open forum. So we have Juliana with a section of script and 2 supporting documents. And it looks like we have Marcus stepping up as well with a portion of his script. I just want to remind you of the homework that was asked of you on Tuesday. Check out the Story Structure Architect, section 2. I think there's sections in that book. Building structure, the roller coaster, the parallel, the episodic, the melodrama, the romance, and the journey. And then you have a discussion post that is ultimately due on Sunday with at least 1 response to appear. And then, of course, your ongoing project for your final submission. So since Juliana is not quite here yet, Marcus, do you want to lead off? And what I'll do is I will make you a co-host so that you can show us your screen.
Professor?
Yes.
I'm at work right now, so if I seem to be gone for a short period of time, it's because of that. I'm sorry.
Yeah, sure. Okay, no problem. Thanks for tuning in anyway then. Okay, Marcus, I will make you a co-host, and so you can share your screen, and you can let me clear off some of my stuff, I guess, and offer you the screen. Do you know how to do that?
Yeah, I've done it for another class.
Okay, good. The floor is yours, sir.
Right. Can you guys see it?
Yep.
All right, so
You know what you could do though is make it a little bit bigger in that window because it's about a third. There you go. Keep going. That looks pretty good. Does everybody like that?
all right. So I decided to make a new story for the final project.
Okay.
It's a series that I'm calling Fortify, and it's basically like an adult animation type thing that I want to see on a streaming service.
Mm-hmm.
And the basic story behind it is beings from another world come to our world, and one specific individual basically has to lead an army to fight off this invading force.
Okay. Sounds familiar.
Yeah,
I think it's the half-hour installment.
yeah, it's like they're all half-hour episodes.
Okay, that's good. Then you got 23 pages here, which fits into the structure well.
Yeah, it's actually 22. I submitted this thing to the Screenwriters Club for it to get some more feedback.
Hmm.
And when I asked for a log line, I did this. I made an extra page that just has like the log line. So it's really 22 pages.
And did you find that experience helpful to you? Did you like the input? Did you find the input valuable or workable in any way?
Oh well, they haven't read it yet.
Oh,
The guy behind it, he's still reviewing over the script, so it hasn't been read yet.
I see.
That's why I'm trying to get as much info on it from this class and from Screamers Club, because like I
That's
said,
terrific.
collaboration helps.
That's terrific. Is this the first time you've submitted to that particular group?
Yeah, it's the first time I've ever done it. I wanted to see how like others did it first before I submit something.
Uh-huh. That's great. If you wouldn't mind, why don't you supply a link either in the chat here or even better, send me an email and I'll turn it into an announcement so that your colleagues, if they choose, could participate in something like that as well. I think that's terrific. If yes,
I can send you the link to the Screenwriting Club Facebook page and Discord group, which is where most of the announcements happen.
I've already got the Discord group and everything.
Okay.
great. Send me the links, guys, and I will formulate that into an announcement for everyone. I think if you're doing workshops outside of UCF where you have some really fresh opinions, that's terrific. So good on you for seeking that kind of feedback.
And the inspiration
I
behind
had
this
an early
story
draft
came.
of-
Oh, sorry, Ben.
No, I was just saying, I also had an early draft of my script reviewed by Screenwriting Club as well, and it was very helpful.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah, the inspiration behind this is because I've seen a lot of shows where usually an individual goes to another world where there's like fantasy, like dragons and knights and all that. And I thought, well, what if the reverse happened? What if the world came to the main character instead?
Yeah, interesting. Hey, roll that log line back down, will you, so we can take a look at it on the screen?
Yeah, I misspelled one of the words. I just realized that it says when beings. It's supposed to say when beings.
I see beings on my side.
Oh, it is. I wonder
Maybe
what
I
happened.
changed it already.
So the log line is when beings from a fantasy world invade Earth, a veteran returns to the line of duty in order to keep his family safe.
Great. Did you do this in final draft?
Yeah, I did it in.
It fixed it for you. That's why.
Yeah. Well, I also use Grammarly now to make sure
Perfect.
everything's good.
Perfect. That's fantastic. You know, and I'm glad that you have been forthright in offering that in this discussion, because I recommend Grammarly to students all the time, and I always hope that it's received in a constructive way, and not that, hey, your grammar's horrible, you need to work on that. It's more, I find that there's several people that profit from that. And I used Grammarly for a time to help me with my comma problem. I was putting commas everywhere in my texts. And I just, because I came from an old upbringing where the comma was considered an acceptable punctuation for a dramatic pause. And apparently the the zeitgeist or the literary current public sphere doesn't see it that way anymore. So commas are used now in a different context than they were 30 years ago when I was in high school. But I used it as well. I think folks who are using English as a second language can profit from Grammarly, because sometimes there are odd grammatical translations that don't quite make it, from one language to another, like French to English, for instance. There's some odd complexities. Chinese to English, there's some odd complexities. So I think Grammarly is excellent, so that you can submit a neutral document to somebody and they don't make any assumptions about you right off the bat simply because your grammar is a little off.
Yeah, for me, Grammarly helps because no joke, from middle school to high school, this is what we did in my English classes. We read a book and we answered questions.
Yeah.
Like all this other stuff, they did not.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's the state of modern education, and I'm hoping that eventually we're going to see the error of those ways and start coming back to a more constructive learning experience. But yeah, that's a common story that I hear over and over again. So, what scene have you selected for us to have a look at?
I'm gonna go with the scene literally uh right when the I guess you could say the rising action happens.
Mhm.
Like basically the thing that drives the story forward. So we're gonna
Yeah.
read a little bit before that and then a little bit after. So let me find it. I believe it's on page 8.
Very appropriate to our weekly conversation.
Okay, here it is. It's on page 5.
Okay.
Starts with a diner.
Okay.
All right, so
Do you want us to read parts for you, or do you want to go ahead and read it for us?
I'll read everything for you guys. Make it easier.
All right.
All right, so interior diner window seat day. James ordered 3 cheeseburgers, a plate of fries, and 2 chocolate shakes. Ronald voiceover. The dude has 3 stomachs. James, thanks for this. I'm starving. Ronald, you realize you got stabbed. Twice. James, so? Ronald, you are the craziest guy I know. James, me, you're 10 times crazier. Our whole lives I didn't know who'd you kill first, me or you. Ronald, yeah, whatever. James, what's that? James points out the small, thick book on the table. Ronald, Alex got straight A's on his report card. I promised I'd buy him the volume for his favorite isekai manga. Manga? It's a Japanese graphic novel. Oh, okay. Now, what the hell's an isekai? It's pronounced isekai. It's basically about someone getting transported to a parallel universe, a fantasy world, or a virtual reality. That sounds stupid. It's not that bad. The one he's reading right now involves someone who gets accused of a crime he didn't commit and has to learn to trust again if he wants to go home. Wait, you read this crap? Just this one. Your sex life must be sad. That would imply I have a sex life. James laughs, almost chokes on his fries. Ronald's smartphone rings. Who is it? It's Aaron. James rolls his eyes. Ronald answers. Hey, Aaron. How's it going? Hey, Squirt. Doing fine. In- Interior, hotel, lobby, evening. Aaron Alvarez, 41, sits on a couch in a 5-star hotel. Ronald. Could you please stop calling me that? I'm not a little kid anymore. You'll always be Squirt in my eyes. Thanks. Where are you calling from? Reception is a little static. Britain, locking down a partnership with the second largest wine distributor in the world. Aren't you in the research and development business? Gotta get with the times, Squirt. Everyone's trying to do everything. Well, I wish you good luck. When have I ever needed luck? Interior, diner, window seat day. Okay, bye now. Ronald's phone unleashes a powerful screech noise that causes everyone to wince. God damn, Ronald. That wasn't my fault. My phone must have picked up someone else's call. The sound of thunder echoes through the canvas, causing the ground to shake. Ronald and James look at the sky, observe as it goes from bright and sunny to gloom and cloudy. Didn't the news say it would be sunny all day? Yeah. An army of lightning bolts strike buildings, street signs, the pavements, etc. Shit. What the hell is going on? One lightning bolt strikes Ronald's car. Oh, come on. When the dust settles, a crack in reality is left behind. Everyone stares on it. Ron, please tell me I'm seeing things. The crack slowly opens, a pair of claws see through. James grabs his gun. Ronald holds a fork. The crack is ripped open, and a series of mythical creatures storm out. James and Ronald freeze. The creatures run throughout the city, some attacking the citizens. Etc. Hotel driveway evening. Aaron watches as portals open around him and creatures come pouring out. Those with wings storm the royal palace. Interior church sanctuary day. Kara and others barricade the doors as demon-like creatures run around harassing people. Interior Sento High School gym day. Alex is locked in the gym with the rest of the school. Shadows seep through the windows. So yeah, that's the basics of the rise of action. It's when all these things start popping through and start, scaring people and everything.
Okay, so this is the vanguard. This is the invasion.
Pretty much.
Okay. Do you want to roll it back to page 5 real quick, and we can look at this from the beginning?
Sure thing.
Couple of notes for you in terms of your formatting, because these are the types of things that Final Draft won't spot for you. You don't have to tell us window seat day for 2 reasons.
Okay.
Number 1, it's just interior diner. And number 2, the director might not like them in the window seat, if there is even a window seat at all. They might end up being in a different place in the diner or whatever. This is superfluous information. It's just interior diner day. And then let physical production have some opportunities to sort of make these decisions.
All right, thank you. Because I always had questions about stuff like that, if I should put those or not.
Yeah, no, you shouldn't. Now, the difference is, like, you have interior Cento High School gym day. That you can do, because where inside the high school are they? In a diner, it's a little different. We assume a diner is kind of like a Denny's, right? There's one dining room, and if it's 2 guys at a table, they're certainly not in the kitchen, they're not in the bathroom, and they're not in the storage area. So that's kind of different. But when you say interior high school gym, that's different, and you should and can do that. As far as your VO, so you have a conversation, somebody calls Aaron on the phone, is that right? Or is it Aaron that calls one of these 2 fellas on the phone?
Aaron calls Ronald on the phone.
Okay, and so I'm getting a sense that you're cutting back and forth during the conversation from Ronald in the diner and Aaron wherever Aaron is.
Yeah.
Okay, so when you're going to do that, if you're going to cut back and forth on the dialogue, that's fine. Or you can cut, like you might cut to Aaron for a series of lines, in which case Ronald's dialogue is voiceover, right?
Right. So like right about.
And vice versa, right?
Right.
Because it kind of goes back and forth. So, okay, so you've put Ronald on the phone. Okay, you can do that, I suppose. I've never seen it done that way, but as long as we know how, it's going back and forth, right?
Right.
So that's okay. Interior hotel lobby evening, that's okay. Interior, or there was exterior hotel, what was it, driveway?
Yeah, driveway.
Yeah, that's okay. And so then, is this the first time we see Aaron?
Yeah, this is the first time you see Aaron.
So this is Aaron's intro. And so I noticed that a lot of you are doing this, where this is fine. So we know that Aaron is 41. What else could you tell us about Aaron, since this is the first time we're seeing him in the film?
All right. I could tell you that he's a business owner, a very successful one.
Is he also a mercenary or an ex-fighter, or whatever these 2, Ronald and Aaron are? Or Ronald?
No, Ronald is the veteran. Aaron is just a businessman. There's nothing nothing like that about him.
Okay. Well, it's I don't know. I'm of 2 minds on it myself. I find it a little distracting sometimes to have that in the script, but if you're writing your initial script, and this is something that as we go through successive volumes of your script up to and including a shooting script, some of this stuff might start to filter out. But in the very beginning, when you're writing it, especially if it's the first time we see a character, it probably is a good idea to not just give them their age, but give us a little sense of who they are, and maybe, how they carry themselves, or what they look like, or, some distinguishing characteristics. Because in the very beginning, and this is really what it's about, right? Writing a script is a collaborative process, even though you're working on it alone in the very beginning, but you're creating a document that other people are also going to work from ultimately. So in pre-production, the reason why we capitalize a person's name the first time we see them in a script is that's a flag for the assistant directors when they're breaking down the script for the very first time and trying to figure out who all the new characters are in the cast lineup, because they're creating documents based on who's in the movie, you know, what their real name is, what their cast name is, and so forth, when they start work, when they finish work. Okay, so that's a flag to the ADs. 41 is a flag to the casting department, so they know to look for a guy who's in middle age. Don't look for a young guy. This guy's middle-aged, and who is he? What is he? He's a businessman, he's successful, he's, you know, whatever else you want to give us in this initial intro for this guy. And then wardrobe might like to know, how does he like to dress? Is he a three-piece suit guy? Is he you know, is he a grunge guy? Does he wear a t-shirt and jeans to work? Does he wear, you know, a shirt and tie? Does he go all the way? What, you know, give us a little something, because the other departments are thinking about your script as well from their particular concerns and points of view. So that's a valid argument to give us a little bit more than just their age when we first meet these characters.
All right, so I'll get more descriptive with some of their with my characters.
Yeah, you don't have to go overboard, and if it's pertinent to the scene that we see them in first off, that's probably, you know, the justification. You know, I don't think you got to give us 4 lines on, you know, this guy's backstory, but you could certainly say, you know, Aaron 41, Wall Street type, or, you know, private sector type, successful businessman, you know, and maybe one other pertinent detail you want to give us, and that's enough to go on. That's enough to get us started. And then, you know, after that, through pre-production meetings and casting meetings and stuff, as the director starts picking through headshots and looking at the people he thinks are going to fit these roles, the rest of that will get fleshed out for us. But just give us just a little something to go on initially.
All right, I'll add some of that, and I'll get rid of, like, I'll fix some of the interiors and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think that would be helpful, just to clean it up and make it look, you know, even more and more like,
Professional.
yeah, like you can't tell this script from anybody else's, you know, I mean, anybody else who's a professional writer. Exactly. Anybody else spot anything that stood out to you immediately? I like the back and forth sort of brotherly banter. And I'm wondering, is this how Aaron treats Ronald, or is this the kind of response Ronald elicits from Aaron? Right. And do they get at each other like that all the time? Does this kind of sort of color their relationship to one another?
Yeah, Aaron's always been the type that, like, yeah, he likes teasing his little brother, you know, just because he's the older one. But it's not to the point where he just flat out makes fun of him. It's, you know, that type where he still looks out for him. That's why he calls him Squirt. You know, it's the name he's always called him, and it's the name he'll always call him no matter what.
It's funny because there was an interview on CNN that I saw, not because I watch CNN, but because it was mentioned in another newscast that I do watch. Andrew Cuomo, the governor of New York, and his brother Chris, who is a CNN anchor, and Chris was interviewing his brother Andrew on the air, something about, I think it was about coronavirus. And the two of them started going at each other like it was like, you know, around the dinner table at the last holiday gathering. You know, it was really kind of interesting to see that dynamic playing on the screen between two real life characters, one older brother and one younger brother. So I think I get the tone, and it's kind of interesting. It's something you can play with. I like it.
Thank you for that.
Anybody else have anything that they'd like to point out? The only other thing I see, as long as we're still not speaking out, is the rip in the universe. I kind of feel like, yeah, I know we've seen that before in other shows, but in your mind's eye, how do you see that? More description on I mean, because this is a seminal event, right? And presumably everybody in your world has never seen this sort of thing before. So tell us, from your point of view, what that looks like. What kind of mayhem is ensuing as the crack in the universe rips open? Because it's kind of doing it like right out there in the street, right? In broad daylight.
Yeah, that's one of them. Like there are multiple cracks in the reality. I just talked about the one that Ronald and James see, but
So
there
have
are
we
cracks
seen one
happening
in
all over the
earlier?
world. That's what the Army of Thunderbolts was about.
Okay, but this is page 7, presumably, of your first script. So this is kind of the first time we're seeing it happen, right?
Right. So I should add that the rips are happening all over the world, and that's how like all these monsters are going everywhere.
Yeah, but I mean, also tell us what, what's happening when the world rips like that and there's a hole from another dimension with there's people coming out. What the hell is going on? I mean, detail, give us the, as much as you can. I understand that it's a half an hour installment, but I think that for the sake of the cinematographer, for the sake of the art director and the production designer, for the sake of the director who is, having to manage this world and in the information, for the sake of the actors who, this is all virtual. So for them, they need things to push against, ideas or images that they can use to help with their performance. So we need to know, what does this look like? What's going on? What's happening? And you can give us, an extended description in the context of your script, because that won't end up on the screen, but it's for the reader. It's for obviously the collaborators who are going to work with this document in terms of turning it into a TV show. We really need to know, what does this look like? Don't just tell us it's a rip in the fabric of time. I don't know what that looks like. What does that look like? Is it purple? Is it blue? Is it cold? Is it hot? Is it gooey? Is it dry? Is it, what is it?
All
And
right, I've got some ideas on how to do this now.
show us,
Yeah.
right? Visually show us with your action lines, your descriptions. you know Tell us what it is the army showing up? Are they confused? Are they in disarray? Are there planes in the air? Are there tanks on the city street? What's going on? What do these creatures look like? They're coming out of the rip in the universe. Do they have guns? Do they have swords? Do they have lightning bolts coming out of their fingertips? Or what is it? Really give us an image.
You can't see it right now, but I'm smiling right now because I just came up with a whole bunch of things to write in here now. Like it's gonna, but when I rewrite it, it's gonna be really descriptive on what's happening.
Yeah, I think that can only help, especially if it's a pilot, because that's where all of this stuff, if you want this to become a TV series, all this stuff gets locked in the pilot. And
Right.
so there's a team of people who specialize in just making pilots. They're going to set the tone and the stage for this story moving forward. And they need every ounce of descriptive quality you can offer so that they can really, lock this thing in. Because then what'll happen is the team that creates the pilot, the director, the cinematographer, and that crew, they're going to turn it over to the showrunners, who are going to take that ball and run with it for however many seasons it's got legs on it for. And they're going to use the pilot as their primer, and the Bible from the pilot will become the first chapter in the Bible for the series. So if you say a certain person walks with a limp, that's it. That's if they, the relationship between Ronald and Mark and Aaron, if it's, if it resonates, it'll stick. you know and so what does the rip look like? Because if this is going to happen again and again and again, give us some idea of the details, because we're going to rely on that later. Post-production needs to know, right? They're going to sit there and go, you want us to make a rip in the universe? Yeah, we make $400 an hour. So you might want to tell us exactly what that looks like, unless you have very deep pockets, right?
All right. I'll fix that. I'll
Think of
make
your
it. I'll make it
your
look
document.
insanely.
Yeah, think of your document with more. It's more than just a story at this point. It's now going to become almost a roadmap for production to follow as well. Okay, so it's doing two things at once. It's telling us the story, but it's also telling us how to manufacture it.
All right. I got it.
Okay. I think it's cool. I think it's interesting. And the more detail you can throw at us, the more interesting it's going to get. It's, it's a similar theme to things that I've heard before. In fact, I think Juliana's has a similar concept where there's another reality and there's beings and there's things going on. So it's resonant in that way. And there's some things in popular culture, I think, that it resonates with. And so also be mindful of those things, and sort of use those as a benchmark. Don't emulate necessarily, but if they do things similarly, you might take note of what's being done on other shows, and that might help you kind of fill in some of the gaps until you can tweak it to your own personal taste, and then it becomes a resonant theme that if there's another show on TV that has a similar kind of storyline, and then you come out with yours and yours has interesting characters and an interesting backdrop, you might actually come with a built-in audience that has expectations and things because they're rolling over from the other show. This will happen a lot on shows that oppose one another in terms of their production schedules, their air dates, right? Like a show that starts with a new season in the first part of the year, in the first or second quarter of the year, and then they go on hiatus for 6 months while they make a new season. And then in the fall, another show comes on that's kind of similar, and they do their thing for the third and fourth quarter, and then they go on a 6-month hiatus in the spring and they do their next series. And cop shows and doctor shows do that a lot, so that the audience that was enjoying the one show kind of rolls over to the next thing while the other guys are building their next series of downs, and then it kind of goes back and forth. And it's almost like teaming up on a branding campaign or something where you have two brands that come together and to maximize their appeal and their audience. I did that for a while with Vikings and Game of Thrones, because Vikings was on at one time in the year and Game of Thrones was on at another time of year. And when Game of Thrones was over, it's like, oh man, I got to wait a whole year for the next season. Or I can roll over to the other channel and watch Vikings for for a few weeks or whatever, and sort of satisfy that Jones for the sword and sorcery thing that you were getting with Game of Thrones. So you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody have anything they want to add or discuss with Marcus's document?
I would really like to see where it goes, because it's very interesting at how it starts out of like nowhere. Like, most shows they would give you like a whole episode and then the thing happens, but it starts from the beginning. So like I would kind of want to know what happens next. Is this going to be a show where we follow different characters and they just cut between them, or do we have our main section?
I think that I'll let Marcus answer. Never mind. I'll wait.
Yeah, we basically do follow the main section of characters. We'll have instances where we'll follow some other ones here and there, but like the story really mainly follows Ronald. He's the main guy. I mean, I can show you. I already wrote the whole thing out, so if you guys want, I can put it in the announcements with the whole thing, so you can read it if you want to.
That would be very generous of you. That would be a lot of fun.
Yes, please.
Can you scroll up to the first page? The first page of the script, not like the title page.
All right. The very first page of the script?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Here is how it all starts.
Okay. Yeah. I like that you kind of start with a little bit of like you start with the action. You don't just start with the conversation. You like have this like big sort of action sequence, and then you sort of go into just two normal people talking. I like that start to it. I think that like that's like a great place where like your title sequence can go right after the first scene, and then the second scene it's like, hey, so let's talk about these comic books,
Right.
Yeah, I agree. It's a neat juxtaposition of it's well, so I think visually, right? So I'm going to call it textures, but you know, whatever word you want to use to describe the contrast between the two concepts. You know, you got a bunch of medieval looking folks sieging something, and then this guy wakes up in his bedroom in the morning and it's like normal life and whatnot. Also, I kind of, to follow up on the previous comment, I couldn't see who made it, but uh, yeah, the fact that you're opening up with some action like that right off the bat, even though it's a TV show and TV shows tend to try to pack a lot into a very short time, it still gives me a sense that, you know, this might be a real rapid fire kind of hard hitting concept that is going to keep you busy for the whole half hour every week, you know, and really keep, you know, create a spectacle that's going to capture your attention, you know, just by the sort of setting that pace early of kind of boom, boom, boom. This is what's happening, you know?
Okay. Thanks for that.
That's some great feedback, guys. Thank you very much for that. Okay. How we looking, Juliana? Are you here yet?
Yeah, I'm here. I could do it now.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, then let me go ahead and adjust Marcus, withdraw co-host. There we go. And then I'm going to make you co-host. And the floor is now yours.
Is still won't let me screen share.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. I have queued up your inciting incident document and your first image document. If you need to show those, I can.
Okay, yeah. So can you show the inciting incident one?
I can. Let me share my screen. Okay, so here's your inciting incident that you turned in to me. And I think, is that okay? Do you want the timeline or do you want this paragraph?
The paragraph's probably better. It's got more details.
All right.
Okay, so my story is kind of the same with the whole alternate reality thing. But it's more like this guy, he takes too much acid one night and then he kind of goes on a 2-day trip. You don't really know if it's real or not yet. So my inciting incident was supposed to be like he goes on like walking out at night and then he just sees these creatures, and then that's kind of the start of it. And because he starts like following them and then like goes through, he ends up like in a forest, and that's where he sees like this really bright light, and he just starts getting closer to it, and then he hits like a barrier, and then kind of like I don't know, he kind of like just makes it through, and that's where he enters like this alternate universe kind of thing, and it's filled like with all of these creatures, whatever, and it's kind of like his actual reality, just like in another world, but like he finds it to be so much better, and he's kind of like he can live this whole new life. So yeah, so this kind of sets the story in motion because he wants to like stay in this alternate reality and seek a way to find how to go back to it, because after like 2 days he kind of ends up back in his own world, and is the whole thing is just him trying to get back and trying to figure out how he got there and what it was.
Okay, so that's the setup. And then do you have a scene that you want to share?
Yeah. It was. Wait, let me double check what number it was here.
In the meantime, while you're looking for that, does anybody have any questions or insights into her inciting incident document? Questions for Juliana at this point? Okay.
Okay, it's the start of like the forest one, so it's like scene 5.
Are you sharing your screen? I think I have to stop sharing mine if
No, it just doesn't let me share.
it doesn't let you share your screen. It should.
I don't know.
Do you have a little green screen share button at the bottom of your Zoom window?
Yeah, it just says that you disable participant screen sharing.
I did?
Mhm.
Lies. Let's see here. Make co-host. You
Okay.
are now the co-host. So maybe it didn't take. Maybe that's what. Oh, I know. It probably shut off when I did my thing. It reverted back to normal. So okay.
Yeah. So this is kind of like the scenes where he finds like this bright light and where he goes to the other world.
Show us your so show us your inciting incident then. Is that it right there? Exterior forest night?
Yeah, it's literally the alleyway is like the start of it, and then this is him like getting there. So this is kind of basically it.
Do you want to read? How far do you want to take us through here?
Just these three scenes because I think there's like.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Do you want to read them for us then, or show, you want me to read them? Do you want us all to read them?
You could read it. I don't know. I'm
Okay.
fine with whatever.
Okay. Exterior alleyway night. Abel is walking around the city slowly and clearly tripping. He passes by an alleyway and his heightened sense of hearing makes him hear something at the end. He slows down and looks to find the source of the noise and sees two obscure creatures at the end. He stares at them until they notice him and run away. It takes Abel a second to process what is happening, and then he starts running after them. He's not sure why, just intrigued by what he saw. Exterior forest night. Abel stops running when he enters a forest. He's lost track of where exactly the creatures are. He walks slowly, trying to see if he can hear or see them again. He stops walking shortly when he sees a small bright light. Abel walks toward it and it seems to get brighter and closer the closer he gets. When he gets close enough, he reaches his hand out to see if he can grab the light. It feels like there's a barrier and tries to push past it. He eventually uses enough force and gets his arm through and keeps pushing past the barrier. Interior interdimensional casino night. When Abel stumbles into the new world, he sees that it's packed with more obscure creatures. He walks around trying to understand what happened, not sure if what he's seeing is real or just the acid he took. Everything is really bright and it looks like they're in a casino. He keeps walking until he sees an exit and quickly runs toward it. Exterior interdimensional world night. Abel walks out and sees that he's still not in his own reality. He walks around confused until he starts realizing he's in a better reality where anything goes. Okay, I want to open it up to the group for some feedback.
Short but sweet. Yeah, I don't really have that much context for what happens earlier, but it seems like it's established well. I think you can maybe go into a little more detail as to what the sort of interdimensional casino, what the interdimensional world looks like. Because all we know that it's interdimensional, but how do we know that? What do we see that's different? How do we know that anything goes?
So kind of like showing what happens.
Yeah. How do we know that anything goes? Is like someone around there just like sprout wings and fly off? Are the clouds raining gumdrops? Like how do we know that this world is unique?
Yeah, I think that this document at the moment is written to describe basically what's happening, but it's not really giving us any sort of visual blueprint that we can use in terms of creating this show from raw materials from scratch. So we need to know, what does the interdimensional portal look like or feel like when he's going through it? Is it blue? Is it purple? Is it dark? Is it lit? Is there no light? We've seen characters experience this thing before. Think about, I don't know, Very Strange Things, right? When the little girl goes to the upside down, there's, we see all kinds of weird stuff. It's very distinct. When Jon Snow is dead after he was stabbed, he's in a black void. So we get a sense of what that is. So tell us what your version of this is and show us, give us the descriptions that we need to really get a solid idea. I mean, how do you know it's a casino? Are there people playing cards? Are they playing roulette? Is it a casino the way we understand the notion of a casino? Or is it something like you might have seen out of Star Wars? You know, is it weird? You know, what do the creatures look like? Lots of creatures, but we don't know what they look like. So I think we need this stuff in a lot of ways, so that all of your collaborators are going to get a really good idea, at least for a jumping off point, you know, where they're going to go, where they're going to take this material. And I agree with Ben, you know, it's like, how do you know anything goes in this world? All you did was walk in the front door and take a look around, but you didn't see anything out of context to your own reality that would indicate that you could do anything. Like, can you fly now? You know, what is it? You know, give us more of that. But you know, I like it. I like that, you know, and disclosure to the group. I mean, we've had a conversation about this already in a private Zoom, and we talked a little bit about doing a little bit of research on the effects of psilocybin on the brain and what happens, and you know, real life descriptions and testimony from people who are, you know, present or former acid users, to tell you what's an acid trip like. Have you ever dropped before? If you've dropped before, then you already have some predisposed ideas about what this world is going to look like, because you were told the character just dosed. Okay. And if that doesn't line up with what your audience is expecting, you know, then you've got to explain the difference, right? Why is this situation different than, you know, what they might already be aware of, right? So there's stuff like that I think can add some interesting dimension to your storytelling if you do a little bit of research and you know, get some point of view from other sources that can help you build your world.
Okay, yeah. I had asked some people I knew, and so I had like an idea of what it would be like.
What about, well, we didn't really look at any dialogue or anything. So this is really just the point where Abel enters the, what do you call this other, do you have a name for this other universe yet?
I just kind of called it like an alternate reality.
Okay. If it's, so this is also, well, this was going to be a TV series, right? And you said now it's going to be a feature film?
Yeah, I kind of thought it'd be better as a feature because I wouldn't know how to drag it on for so many episodes. It was just going to be him like going back and
Okay.
like different ways and seeing different stuff.
Okay. How does everybody else feel about the idea of giving the alternate universe some kind of name or a context, so that every time you refer to it in the script, it's not the alternate interdimensional reality, right?
I think you'll probably find that it's helpful not just for like for your own categorization, but just in dialogue. Like, I don't know how much you're planning on like having the characters talk about it, but it would probably be easier to have some name that the characters can use rather than like explaining it every time.
It's kind of like what they did in Stranger Things. You know, they gave that
Yeah.
alternate world the upside down.
Yeah, exactly. So that it has a name, right? It almost becomes a character. Micah, who was that just popped up? I saw somebody said, give it a name. Yes, give it a name. So I you know, I think that it, you know, that inner dimension might take on a life of its own and become somewhat of a character in its own right, you know, kind of like the upside down is almost a character in its own right. When it happens, we know, you know. So yeah, that's cool. Anybody else, any thoughts on the mechanics of this, or anything really? I'm opening up the floor to a broad discussion, I hope. Nothing? Let's look at your, why don't you give me the screen, or maybe I can do that. Let's look at your other document here, your Bible. We have some stuff. So here's a log line. An insomniac tries to find solace in staying up late, but nothing good ever happens after hours. Is that log line still ring true with what we just heard and looked at?
Not really. It sounds like something completely different.
I'm waiting for Griffin Dunn to pop out from behind the shadows and go to a nightclub in Soho, right? After hours. You guys probably don't get that reference. Ooh, boy, I'm old. Okay. Yeah, I think we need to tweak that log line a little bit. An insomniac. Is he an insomniac? I don't know. Did you describe him as an insomniac in the script?
Yeah, earlier he's like getting meds and stuff, right? Because he can't sleep, and he's like,
Oh, is that why he's at the doctor? Okay. All right.
Yeah.
I get it. Okay. Because I don't remember him saying I'm an insomniac in the doctor's office. It was just she offered him a new medicational brand and he said, okay, fine, I'll try it. But he didn't seem really to open up and say what he's being treated for.
yeah, it's just also like this all happens like at 3 a.m. Like when it first starts happening, he's like taking a walk like at 3 because he's like, why not?
Is it also 3 a.m. in the other universe?
It's supposed to be. It's just kind of like a parallel.
Okay, these are things that we're going to need to know. So if there's a way at some point for you to, when he leaves the real world at 3 a.m., is it also 3 a.m. in the other world? Is it also dark, for instance? Or is it, does the other world have a different set of fundamental rules and laws of nature, right? These are things that are going to have to be, this is the responsibility you're going to have to bear and accept if you're going to create a whole world that is, that conflicts with our conscious ideas of reality, right? You're going to have to describe it all, tell us how it works, right? So we know the rules and we know everything we need to know so that we can then also follow your story, whether we go to the other world or not. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Okay. So nothing good ever happens after hours. I don't know about that. I don't know that I agree with that. But how about, an insomniac self-medicates in an attempt to, get over his malady, and in the process discovers an alternate reality that offers, a sense of adventure, something that gives us a little bit more of a sense of what we just read.
Yeah, okay, I'll probably change it then.
Because that's the other thing, you're going to use this log line in your pitch package. At some point, you're going to pitch that to somebody and they're not going to know what to expect. They might think of, oh, it's going to be like this. After Hours was a famous movie in the mid 80s that was done. And it was it Christopher, I forget the director, but it starred Griffin Dunn, and it basically was how New York City, after last call at normal bars, becomes this other world with all of these strange esoteric rules and all of these weird people. And, he starts, becoming affected, by his experience, and he has some conflicts and things that he has to get out of, some danger he has to avoid. And his only hope is, can he survive till the morning so that when the sun comes out and Soho goes back to being New York City normal in the morning, and everything will be restored to normal, right? So that was kind of, that's why I gave you that really bad joke. But that's, so if I was a producer right now and you gave me that log line, that's what would pop in my head. Oh, insomniac, after hours, nothing good can happen. Oh, is it like that movie? No, not at all. It's completely different, right? So we need something here that's definitively talking about your concept. What else do we have here? What other interesting? Okay, synopsis. Abel is a depressed insomniac that just goes through the motions every day. Okay. He decides to go out one night late to ease his boredom, but enters another world he would never find sober. Okay. Tell us he dropped. He comes face to face with the obscure creatures of the night and quickly accepts the world he has found. When he wakes up a few days later, lost in a forest, he decides he won't stop until he gets back to his newfound escape, but escaping your problems doesn't always last. Okay. So we talked about the fact that there was a resonant premise in there. You can't run away from your problems. That's a pretty common premise, right? So that's in there. Don't be afraid to word it in the same way either, because it's a flag for people. It's like, here's a point of commonality that you can relate to, that my story kind of hinges on. You can't always get what you want, or you can't run away from your problems. And that's okay, because these are kind of anchor points for your audience, right? What else we got here? This is a nice document. Main character Abel. Okay. So he's 26. He's Hispanic. He wants to escape his reality. And we've kind of, is his only problem insomnia, because he has some dynamic friends that what did they do? They share a dorm room or something at college, or what was the context of that scene?
No, it's just like it's like his best friend, but he like lives on his own.
Okay. So what other problems does he have other than his insomnia?
He's like depressed and he has like really bad anxiety and stuff.
Okay, so we might want to explore that a little bit, because, it's the reason why he takes the acid, right? And it's the reason why he wants to leave the current reality and go somewhere else. So, we have to ask questions of this character then. Well, what's so bad that you want to leave this world? And give us some idea what that is. We're going to need a little backstory there to go on. Maybe he can talk about those things with his doctor a little bit more in that opening scene, or maybe he can talk about it with his friends, or maybe we can just see it through action and exposition that way. Show us your character having a bad go of it somehow. Is it on the job? Is it from his parents? Is it, what is it? And he needs to stick to therapy and get better. Okay, so he's in sessions, right? So maybe we can see a session with his therapist where he talks about why he doesn't want to be in this reality anymore, because that was kind of glossed over in the beginning of that script. Main character Abel works at Guitar Center. Cool. And pretty much hates his life. He's been going to therapy, but not taking it seriously, only really going because his best friend Tony keeps pushing him. He wants to get better, but finds it hard. He's been struggling with his mental health since he was 13, and not being close with his parents made him be emotionally distant and only worsened the older he got. He always felt kind of lonely and only really confides in Tony, but even then, he still sometimes refuses to open up. He's not a pessimist, though. He's still a caring person and tries to be kind despite everything he's gone through. The only time he doesn't act like that is when someone pisses him off or is rude first. When he finds the other reality the night he trips, he feels like it's his way to finally be free of his past issues. Okay, that's pretty broad, but I'm thinking maybe we could pick one particular thing and show us that, or maybe a couple of small issues that we can sort of exhibit for the audience to give us a sense of what that is. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I like the character building that you have for Abel. Like I think how he's described and everything, it makes him a character that I like. What's the word I'm looking for? Like because he's struggling and all stuff like this. You as a viewer, you want to see him, triumph at the end. To things going a bit better for him.
So like getting the happy ending.
Kind of something like that. Like after seeing this, it's like I want him to be able to go back to that other reality and live a better life than what he's living right now.
All right.
I think this is another opportunity to do some research. So we've got drug use, drug experience research, and we've now have
You've got the mental health,
depression, insomnia, mental health research that you can do. And maybe in the process of looking into those things, you can find some details that might help you give your character a quirk, or provide an opportunity for your character to use a line of dialogue that indicates that, you know, or gives us some sense of what the background information is concerning his condition, or, you know, what he's feeling, how he's feeling, you know. For instance, I have a friend right now who's pitching a it's a TV, I think it's a TV series about young lawyers going to college to become lawyers, right? And he's like, man, I go, what do you know about the law? And he goes, nothing. And I said, well, you know, I asked him, do you remember the TV series The Paper Chase from the 70s? And he's, of course, yeah, because he and I are both the same age. I said, well, that's one, you know, model you can, you know, sort of, you know, reference in your research. I said, but what else are you doing? And he's been looking around for colleges that he can go and actually comp a semester at law school and just sort of sit in on classes and see what it's like to be a law student, see what they look like, see how they act, see how they talk and interact with each other, feel what it's like to be in a classroom setting where you're studying law. And in other words, he wants to embed himself as a research opportunity, so he really gets a sense of what that world is like, so that when he's writing it, the descriptions will resonate. Anybody in the audience who has a common experience like law school is going to recognize the little details that you put in your writing that will almost be Easter eggs for those individuals in the audience to find. You know, it's a way of, you know, kind of gathering an audience. So for instance, you don't want to do anything in your writing that would be contrary to, you know, current medical understanding or practice concerning treating somebody with an ailment like insomnia or depression, you know, because I see that a lot of times in writing, where it's almost seems like the person who wrote the script didn't really know about that world or that thing they were talking about. And I can give you one really current example of that. How many of you have seen The Revenant? Nobody? The Leonardo DiCaprio movie?
Are you talking about the one with Leonardo DiCaprio?
Yeah, that one.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's a scene where he's getting mauled by a bear. He's a trapper in the early 1700s in pre-Louisiana Purchase America, and he's out on an expedition with part of the Continental Army, and they're doing a survey, and he's their guide, and he's taking them through the wilderness. And at some point, he gets separated from the group, and he gets beset by an angry grizzly mother who's protecting its cubs. And this bear attacks Leonardo's character and mauls him almost to the point of death. And so in this scene, Leonardo has a rifle, okay? And so if you know about the time period and you know about the weapons that were available to these people at the time, you recognize the rifle that he's using as a cap lock black powder rifle, okay? And in the scene where he's getting mauled by the bear, actually, it's not a cap lock, it's a flint lock. So there is a mechanism that has to be engaged. Gunpowder has to be added to it. The trap has to be closed so the flint can hit the striker and the rifle can fire. And there's a point in that scene where you can actually see the rifle and it is nowhere primed or ready to be fired. And yet, in the very next shot, in a close-up, he cocks the hammer on the rifle and shoots the bear. Okay. Now, most people wouldn't see that detail and think anything of that scene because they're more focused on Leo getting mauled by a bear. But the first time I saw that scene, I said, what? No way in hell that rifle ever would have fired. He would have been a dead man. But instead, he shoots the bear and he survives. And I thought to myself, wow, that's really careless of whoever wrote that scene to not understand how that rifle works if this guy's going to carry that thing in virtually every scene in the movie. Okay. And it's an example where I'm just another Joe in the audience, right? But I saw something that kind of took me out of the moment. And at that particular time, when I was supposed to be like really engaged in what's happening, I'm like going, that's bull. Wouldn't work that way. Right. And so I'm out of the moment. Right. So there's going to be, I think you owe it a little bit to your audience to do enough research to where when you write about your characters or what they're doing, it's going to resonate like our expected reality. Just a piece of advice. Does anybody have any thoughts about that? Has anybody come into a situation like that that's similar to what I'm talking about? No? Okay. Well, it might not be as ubiquitous as I think it is, but I've seen quite a few times at least issues with where I felt like, well, for instance, the reboot of Forbidden Planet, the Robbie the Robot thing that was on, was it Stars that did it? I forget who did it. But anyway, it seemed like there was a lot of times where they just sort of ignored the science of what they were talking about, and had situations and then solutions that the characters arrived at to solve problems that wouldn't have worked if anybody had really understood the science correctly. Right. So I'm a big proponent of, digging deep in the details like that to make sure that, you don't get called out by an angry fan who says, I saw, like angry Star Trek fans in episode 138, when Captain Kirk said this thing, we all know that's impossible because the dilithium crystals never would have behaved that way. And we know this because in episode 39, Mr. Scott said, blah, 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 and you get that going on. Hopefully that's not a problem that you ever have. Let's see, what else have we got here? Oh, I went the wrong way. John. Okay. And who is John now?
He's just like supposed to make sure that Abel never finds out that it's real. It's kind of like it's supposed to be a secret. Like no one's supposed to know that place like exists.
Okay. So John is kind of in the know. Making sure Abel doesn't discover the interdimensional world, helps keep it hidden. Okay. So is he going to be the antagonist throughout the series or just for the pilot or what?
No, throughout the series. Yeah.
Cool. So we know we're going to have this guy recurring and he's going to be a constant sort of antidote to our hero. Okay. And he's an FBI agent. Okay. Working for almost 20 years. He's seen some tough cases, but he's not afraid of anyone or anything. Had a good life growing up. He went to a private school, never had issues making friends. He was also kind of a jock. So he's always thought of himself as a superior macho type. When he finds out about Abel and has to make him keep quiet, he doesn't actually really want to threaten or make his life difficult. He wants to just take the easy way out and hope he listens to not have to deal with it. He doesn't think Abel is actually smart enough to even figure it out, so he just tries threatening him at first to stay quiet and do nothing until he realizes he's still trying anyway. Any thoughts on that, anyone?
So is John the antagonist?
Yeah.
Is he it's almost like a parent who doesn't want to be bothered dealing with their kid that has a problem. He's just kind of pushing him off, blowing him off and hoping he'll just forget about it or something. I'm wondering if there's reason to make that a little bit more intense. Does it get tenser as we move forward? Is this just his initial approach to the problem?
Yeah, it gets more tense. Like once you realize like, oh, he's actually gonna keep trying, he gets like annoyed, and so he starts getting like more like aggressive in his approach to get him to stop.
Okay. Have you thought about any ways that might present itself on screen? How are
Yeah.
these guys going to come in contact with one another if he's an FBI agent? Is he casing the joint? Is he surveilling the kid? What's going on? And how did he get on John's radar in the first place?
So he starts like looking stuff up and like trying to learn more about it. And then through there, they kind of find out like, oh, someone's like researching all this stuff and they're like not supposed to. Cause it's kind of like, it's like a myth kind of thing. Like people have known about it, but they have to stay quiet if not like kind of get like, I don't know.
So John is at an agency like that's kind of like the NSA who's screening the internet and looking for pop-ups, red flags, people searching for certain kinds of
Yeah.
search words and terms and stuff.
Yeah, more like that.
Okay. All right. So it sounds like John, is in a world that's going to need a lot of description as well.
Okay.
Otherwise, it's like, where'd he come from? How does he know about Abel? And, and then he goes to the extent of figuring out who Abel is and finding out that he's doing this kind of research, but then he just hopes that Abel's going to not pursue it, or
He just thinks he's like some stupid kid. So he's like, oh, he's not actually going to try. And then he finds out like, oh, this kid's serious. And then he kind of gets like more aggressive about it.
Think about how he's going to come to that realization. I think that's going to be important. I think. Anybody have any thoughts on that? It's almost like, well, if the kid's harmless, why does he care? Why does he even, how does he know that how does he arrive at the conclusion that the kid's maybe not serious? Has he seen this kind of thing before? Is there somebody else who he maybe discovered who turned out to be unengaged or not motivated? How does he know that Abel's not, not likely to follow through? What, I guess we need to know more about how John knows about this thing, and maybe if there's been others before, and what's he, has John, been following Abel for a long time? Is it, it seems like a complex relationship. That's just my initial thought, but I guess you've got time to sort of develop that throughout. Well, if it was a series, that would be the kind of thing that you could develop over several episodes. So you're going to have to get to that a little quicker if it's going to be a feature film concept, I think.
Okay. Yeah.
What else have we got? Tony, background, 27 years old, Hispanic, to see Abel get better. That's what he wants. He just wants Abel to get better. What he needs Abel to take therapy more seriously. Why? Did Tony also go through therapy? Does Tony know the value of therapy, or does Tony know the gravity of Abel's situation and feels scared for him? Why?
Yeah, it's just like that's his best friend. He's like, okay, I don't want you to do anything stupid, so I want you to take this seriously and try to actually get better.
Okay. All right. Again, this is something that could develop as a character arc over the course of a season, but now that it's a feature, we got to get to all this stuff quickly, right? Remember how quickly we got to 10 pages in The Devil Wears Prada. We learned about a whole world, what that girl wanted, the fact that she needed a job, the fact that she was in a sketchy relationship. We learned all about her antithesis, both of them, really quickly. We were up to speed in that world real fast because 10 pages is 10 minutes. And if it's a 2-hour movie, now we've only got an hour and 50 minutes to have an entire 3-act play with an outcome. So we got to get there quick. Okay. Tony's been Abel's best friend since childhood. He's always been by Abel's side through all the adversity, and is the number one person that advocates for him to go into therapy and get better. We might want to learn about that somehow. His life wasn't as rough as Abel's growing up, but he still had his issues and the problems with anxiety, so he tries to put himself in Abel's shoes. Okay, so he's a fellow sufferer. That's good. When Abel calls him after he's disappeared for 2 days, he starts worrying that he's headed somewhere dark and it's going to hurt himself. He doesn't tell him where, he doesn't tell when he finally calls back, but Abel's describing what he saw and not being gone because of his trip makes him fear Something will happen to him soon. Okay. Lots to unpack. Anybody have any thoughts about any of this? Well, that's a cool. Nothing to add, nothing to offer. Any thoughts or feelings about? I feel like there's a lot here. There's a lot to do.
I agree. There definitely is a lot, and it's kind of crazy that you're making this into a movie. I think it could still work as a show, but like maybe like a limited series, like how some people do. Like maybe it's
Yeah, I
just
started like think maybe would actually be better as a show instead if there's so much.
yeah,
Maybe it
like
could
maybe
be a
just
mini
make it
series, right? Like
like an 8 to 12 episode
yeah,
limited series.
yeah, like or even 4 episodes. I mean, it feels like a lot to pack into 2 hours because we've got all these issues with mental illness and a friend who's a co-sufferer and all of that interrelationship there. We've also got this FBI agent come from this complex world of clandestine intelligence gathering. We've got this alternate universe, and then we got this kid with his problems and all this stuff. It seems like a lot for to fit into this 2-hour package. Not to say that it can't be done. Stranger things have happened, but if that's the case, you got to really pick your points, prioritize your themes and your premise. Make sure that your premise is locked in. You got 2 premises working right now, by the way. The grass is always greener, we talked about in our Zoom meeting. You've also illustrated for us here. You're saying, let me go back to the front to refresh my memory here. You're saying, oh yeah, you can't run away from your problems. And then I thought there was one more. So you got like 2 or 3, parallel premises running here. Maybe it's time to prioritize one of those and make that sort of define the structure of your story. And then the other one can be sort of a secondary tone that resonates, but you don't have to necessarily confront it. Like, so you can't run away from your problems. Is probably the issue at hand here, right? So now that's going to speak to how you can treat your main character. How is he trying to run away from his problems? Is it simply the acid, or has he tried other things that didn't work? And what about his friend Tony? What did Tony do when Tony was trying to escape his problems? How did Tony reconcile his illness with his behavior and come around to the point where he could heal? And what is Abel's option going to be, right? um i I think you're going to want to tighten this thing up in order for it to fit into your concept of a 2-hour movie. I
Yeah.
think it's certainly worth a shot. What you could do is what we call writing a kitchen sink script. Just put it all in there and see how it washes out, and then start editing it, from that extended concept. I mean, you could write a 4-hour Heaven's Gate style script, and then from there start really paring it down. Or you might realize that maybe it works good as a movie and a sequel, or as a mini series. Or maybe you just see through by going through the motions of writing the full script, and don't pull any punches. Write your wish list of a script, put it all in there that you would want to see how long it runs, and then see what you can edit out and still have continuity of story and tone without it becoming too hard to follow, and see what happens. So the editing process for you is going to be a significant part of your total writing process, I think. Anybody have any last thoughts about that before we wrap this thing up? Jamika's giving us the thumbs up. Mariah, how do you feel? Anything to add or any questions you might have? Are you there? I think we lost Mariah. Okay, well, I want to thank Marcus and Juliana for offering and sharing their documents with us. I hope the discussion was helpful. I always hope for a little bit more back and forth, but hopefully you've got something to at least get you started. And then if Marcus, if you want to offer those links, maybe this is something, Juliana, that you might want to pursue as well. So you have another option for workshopping your material. I think it'll be very valuable for you to get some more opinions on what you're doing, and maybe some folks that have tread over the same ground and might have some pointers for you or some suggestions to point you in the right direction.
Yeah, I'm gonna create a discussion box thing, title it workshop after hours, or if anyone wants to post something just for a workshop, they can do it right there. I'll post it in the discussion thing.
That's a great idea. That's a great idea. So I put a public discussion forum in the getting started section. So you could use that if you want, or you can, if you got an idea about how to set up your own, that's fine too. Okay. Does anybody have any questions or thoughts on what we covered this week, or any questions about anything else that we've covered in the last few weeks since the midterm?
No, Professor.
Okay. All righty. Well, then I would say that we can probably adjourn this meeting if you guys agree. And I'll see you all next week on Tuesday. And don't forget, you got a discussion post due on Sunday night with one response at least, please. And other than that, with no further questions, I will bid you good afternoon.
Thank you, Professor.
Thank you. Have a good afternoon.